Imagine a mother. She has traveled from Knoxville, Tennessee to Birmingham, Alabama. Not for a vacation, not for business, but because she is out of options. She is carrying a 4-year-old boy. And when you see this boy, your breath stops. He was born blind, born deaf, born mute, his tongue hanging outside his mouth, laying on his chin. Both arms are deformed, matted together, elbows protruding into his stomach. His knees touch his elbows. He has no feet. He has no male organs. His lungs are deformed. His liver is deformed. His heart has only 2.5 chambers functioning. The doctors looked at this child at birth and said a sentence no mother should ever hear. This baby will not survive his first birthday. He is now 4 years old. The man of God stops mid-sermon. His eyes go distant. He says, "I'm being carried away in the spirit. I see a big white building, a hospital, a maternity ward, a baby born with 12, 20, 26 major diseases." The young associate evangelist standing on the platform goes rigid. His eyes go wide. He whispers under his breath, "My God, tonight's that baby's night." The mother is called forward. She places the boy in the preacher's arms. What happens next, in front of 3,000 witnesses, was described by that young associate evangelist for the rest of his life as the greatest miracle he ever saw with his own eyes. The tongue, hanging on the chin for 4 years, snaps back into the mouth for the first time. The milky, sightless eyes begin to spin, whirlpools, and then color, brown eyes, seeing eyes. The arms begin to crack and pop like cordwood, both of them extending outward simultaneously. The legs straighten, and then the young associate drops to his knees because what he is watching is not a healing. It is a creation. He watches God build feet onto the ends of 2 club-shaped stumps. He watches the toes form, one by one. While the boy is still in the man's arms, the boy is placed on his brand new feet, barefoot, because you do not put shoes on clubs. He takes his first steps. He sees his mother standing across the platform, and he runs to her. He leaps into her arms. And for the first time in 4 years, for the first and only time in his life, he opens his mouth and speaks his very first word, "Mama." That young associate evangelist watching from the platform, the one who refused to close his eyes when he was told to pray, who said, "I've been waiting for this all week. I'm going to watch and pray," was not famous that night. He was not the headline. He was the servant, the trombone player, the truck driver, the man who pounded the tent stakes into the hard ground while someone else got the credit. But God was building something in him that Birmingham could not contain. His name was Robert William Schambach. And this is not the story of a special man. This is the story of what God does through an ordinary one, when that ordinary man decides to pay whatever it costs. Comment below with, "Lord, give me oil in my lamp," and stay with us to the end of this story. If you are ready to lay aside every weight, strip off every excuse, and run with endurance the race God has already set before you. April 3rd, 1926. The Great Depression is tightening its grip on America. Robert William Shambach is born into a working-class family in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. No wealth, no connections, no religious pedigree. His father is a tough man, a former Navy officer, and young Robert inherits every ounce of that toughness. He is loud, he is restless, he is full of energy that has nowhere to go yet. Have you ever felt that way? Like there is something in you that the world you are living in is too small to hold. One evening, Robert is running home from work at a farmer's market. He hears a preacher on the street corner with a loudspeaker and thinks one thing: "I don't want to hear any preacher tonight." He runs faster. And then the preacher does something that stops him dead in his tracks. He leans into that microphone and says, "Hey, sinner." Robert Shambach stopped, because he later said, "I knew it was me." That's the first thing you have to realize, that you are a sinner and you need help. He leaned against a telephone pole, And the next words out of that preacher's mouth changed the entire direction of human history, as Robert Schambach knew it. You don't have to sin anymore. No church building, no choir, no altar with velvet cushions. Just a young man, a telephone pole, and a curb he turned into an altar. He had no theological terminology. He did not know what to call what happened to him, but he described it this way for the rest of his life. It felt like I took a shower on the inside. The people around him were laughing. He did not care. He had been born again on a sidewalk, and the God who would one day use him to fill stadiums found him next to a telephone pole. Now, where is your telephone pole? Where is the moment you stopped running? At 18, Schambach enlists in the United States Navy and ships out to the South Pacific as a boilermaker on a destroyer. World War II is not a metaphor for him. It is the smell of burning oil, the sound of enemy fire, the sight of young men dying far from home. But God was building a soldier. Every lesson the Navy drilled into Robert Schambach, obedience under pressure, endurance without complaint, functioning in chaos when everything inside you wants to quit, became the skeleton of the spiritual warrior he was about to become. Then came Nagasaki. After the bombing, his ship enters the harbor. He stands on the deck surrounded by the ruins of an entire city. He watches repatriated prisoners of war being carried off ships, men who had been in hell and were finally coming home. And in the weight of that moment, with destruction on every side and eternity pressing down on him, Robert Schambach drops to his knees on the docks and makes a vow that he will keep for the next 67 years. Yes, Lord, I will preach your gospel. Where is your Nagasaki? What is the moment you have been waiting for before you finally say yes? Back on American soil, Schambach honors his vow. He enrolls at Central Bible Institute in Springfield, Missouri on the GI Bill. He studies hard. He works odd jobs to survive. But he did not come for a diploma. He came for power. And the school, for all its doctrine, could not fully give him what he came for. The moment that proved it came in a classroom. The professor announces that the class will bypass the unit on demonology. Schambach's hand goes up before the man finishes the sentence. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it says on your bulletin that I would learn how to cast out devils. I came here for that. Uncle Sam is paying for my education on the GI Bill, and I want what's coming to me. The professor bows his head. Silence fills the room. Then, in one of the most honest admissions in the history of religious education, he says, I don't know how to do it. Write that down. An entire generation of ministers was being trained in everything except the power they needed most. Schambach walked out of that seminary knowing something that would govern his entire ministry. The classroom gives you doctrine. Only God gives you power. And you cannot substitute one for the other. But before he could have his own platform, God had one more school for him. And this school had no desks. It had a tent. Shortly after Bible school, Schambach attended a tent meeting in his hometown. T.L. Osborne and Gordon Lindsay together. He was just a student in the crowd. Osborne called up a young boxer, a man Schambach knew personally, who had gone blind from being pushed too hard by his managers. Osborne did not take him behind the platform, just in case. He prayed publicly, openly, with absolute expectation. He rebuked the blind spirit. Instantly, the eyes opened. The man could see, and he got saved right there on the platform. Schambach, standing in that crowd, heard God speak directly into his heart. This is what I am calling you to do. Not long after, he joined A.A. Allen's Miracle Revival Fellowship. And here is what you need to understand about this season. Schambach did not join as a featured speaker. He did not join as a co-host. He joined as a servant. He played trombone in the band. He drove the trucks across the country. He pounded the iron tent stakes into hard ground until his hands bled. He set up chairs. He preached the afternoon faith clinic, the service no one glamorized, preparing hungry people for what God would do at night. And when the crowds were upstairs in the tent watching miracles, Schambach was underneath the platform on his knees, praying, interceding, paying the price in the only currency that produces power. The power on the stage was bought in the prayer beneath it. He also watched Alan fast for 30 days during meetings, and he noticed something that he never forgot. The 30-day fasts produced the greatest miracles. He absorbed that lesson. He made it his own. He built his entire ministry on the discipline of the hidden place. But then came the night that almost broke him. Schambach and Alan are en route to India when the news arrives. Jack Coe, one of the most powerful miracle ministers in America, has died suddenly at 38 years old. Schambach cannot sleep. He walks down to Waikiki Beach and stays there all night, weeping, crying out to God in the darkness. "Lord, one of your top men has just been shot down. I want to offer my services. I want to take his place." God spoke back, and what he said was not what Schambach wanted to hear. "You're not ready." Can you imagine? The rejection of holy ambition. Schambach submitted. He went back to Alan's ministry. He kept driving the trucks. He kept pounding the stakes. He kept praying under the platform. He kept preaching the afternoon service that no one filmed. And then, after 5 years of obscurity and faithfulness, God spoke the second time. "It is time." Alan offered him the keys to his Cadillac to stay. Schambach threw them back. "If I stay, I'll ruin you or you'll ruin me. I've got to go. All I ask is that you lay your hands on me and ask God to give me a double portion of your spirit." Alan prayed over him in front of 5,000 people in Chicago. This was not a ceremony. It was a commissioning. The Elijah and Elisha moment. And Schambach walked out of that tent in 1959 with no salary, no guaranteed crowd, a tent bought on credit, and a God he had proven in the hidden place. Alongside everything God was building in Robert Schambach stood a woman who deserves her own chapter in this story. Mary W. Shambach, born September 3, 1926, just months after her husband, was not a spectator to the ministry. She was a pillar of it. She traveled with him through the grinding, unglamorous decades of tent revival ministry. The endless roads, the financial uncertainty, the seasons when crowds were small and opposition was loud. She held the family together when Robert was flying back on Sunday mornings to preach at their 4 churches before flying back out to the revival the same afternoon. She was the one who, when God rebuked her husband at 3 a.m. in a Chicago hotel room for spending too much time with the people and not enough time with God, stayed close enough to remind him of it for decades. "Do you remember what he told you, honey?" she would say. And he never forgot. Together they raised their daughter Donna, who would carry the ministry after them, ensuring the fire of her father's calling would outlast his body. Mary went home to the Lord on April 20th, 2010, 2 years before her husband. They had dedicated their lives together, side by side, to one goal, that multitudes would come to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. Robert never forgot the cost Mary paid. He never let anyone forget that behind every man who carries a fire, there is often a quiet, faithful partner who keeps the home burning while the tent is being pitched. Meanwhile, in those first independent crusades, the miracles began to multiply. At the Chicago Coliseum, blind eyes opened. Deaf ears were unstopped. Schambach stayed until every single person who needed prayer had been touched, wearing himself down to nothing, falling onto the hotel bed in his clothes at 3 in the morning. Until the 3rd night, when God woke him with a bright light and a voice that cut through the darkness. "You are spending too much time with the people and not enough time with me. Then, without me, you can do nothing." The paradox was staggering. The most powerful nights of ministry he had ever experienced. And God was telling him he had missed something more important. The lesson landed in his bones and never left. You cannot give out what you have not received. The power flows from the relationship, not from the activity. While other ministers moved into air-conditioned sanctuaries, Schambach kept the tent. Deliberately, intentionally. The tent was his theology. No dress code, no pew assignment, no gatekeeper deciding who was welcome. Drug addicts, prostitutes, alcoholics, the homeless. They came under the canvas and left changed. In Chicago, a woman with diabetic gangrene had her foot surgically removed. Her husband rented an ambulance, put her on a stretcher, and brought her to Schambach's church. Before praying, Schambach looked at the husband and asked one question: "Do you really believe God will do that?" The husband answered without blinking, "I wouldn't have rented the ambulance if I didn't." Schambach laid himself across that bandaged stump and prayed. She leapt off the stretcher. There was no foot, but she was dancing. Weeks later, she walked in wearing boots, rolled down her stocking, and showed a foot that was forming, growing back, toe by toe, over the coming months. A creative miracle in stages. In St. Kitts, with 50,000 of the island's 60,000 citizens in attendance, a full deaf school of 60 children was brought to the meeting. Schambach gathered every pastor on the island, Baptist, Pentecostal, every denomination, and gave them one instruction: put your finger in the children's ears and your thumb on their tongue. That's all I want you to do. I will pray one prayer and God is going to heal every one of these children. One prayer. 60 deaf children, every single one healed simultaneously. The next morning's newspaper headline: Deaf school closed, every child healed. In Philadelphia, a boy came forward with his arm growing directly from his shoulder. No elbow, no upper arm, his hand attached at the joint. Schambach prayed. The arm began to extend, visibly in the same meeting, reaching toward the floor. The boy came back in the prayer line and said, "I want another lick." By the end of the night, the arm was fully extended and normal. God does not always finish in one prayer, but He always finishes. And through it all, decade after decade, city after city, one thing never changed. The signature declaration that became the rallying cry of a generation: you don't have any trouble. All you need is faith in God. What the crowds never saw was the man at 4 a.m. Before the tent, before the microphone, before the miracle, the extended fasts, the hours of intercession, the separation and solitude that preceded every explosion of power. Schambach learned from Alan that 30 days of fasting produced 30 times the fruit, and he built his life on that law. He also learned to fight. In Phoenix, Alan sent him to deal with a demonized woman named Carol while he prayed for the sick. Schambach assembled 12 preachers and 10 singers armed with the blood songs. The demons spoke back. Sweat poured out of his shoes. They threatened to wear him out. Then Schambach found the weapon. He declared, "My elder brother Jesus destroyed you 2,000 years ago and rendered you powerless." The demon said, "Don't say that." Schambach said, "I've got him." And he shouted it louder, 3 times, until the demons confessed, "We're all gone." The lesson he carried for the rest of his ministry: when the devil tells you not to say something, say it louder. And when critics surrounded the broader healing movement in the 1980s, when scandal rocked the televangelist world and the entire stream he had swum in came under public attack, Schambach did not rebrand. He did not issue a press release. He did not distance himself from the supernatural to protect his reputation. He kept pitching the tent. In a world full of reasons to be cynical about the power of God, he chose to be evidence instead. But perhaps the scene that captures the entire message of R.W. Schambach's life most completely is not about Schambach at all. In his Newark church, he anointed a young man's hands, placed a bottle of oil in them, and told him, "Go find somebody who is sick and heal them. Don't pray for them. Heal them." The young man went to a hospital. No permit, no license, no credentials, nothing but oil and belief. He cleared one entire floor. Every patient went home healed. He rode the elevator to the trauma ward. A woman had just died. The doctors filed out. The young man came out from where he had pressed himself against the wall, walked to the bed, pulled back the sheet, poured oil on the dead woman, and commanded, "Death, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. Life, come back." 7 times she sputtered. until she sat up, until she got off the bed and ran around the trauma ward, until every patient in that ward was waving him over. He got arrested for disturbing the peace. In jail, he anointed the prisoners. The jailer got saved. He went before the judge, who apologized and dismissed the case, then leaned down from the bench and said, "Son, go buy some more oil." When Schambach heard the story, he wept. Then he stood in front of his congregation and delivered the sentence that is the entire message of his life in one breath. God knows the church isn't doing what he commanded, so go get the oil and do what he commanded you to do. That young man was not a theologian. He was not an ordained evangelist. He was a believer, and Jesus said the signs would follow the believer, not the bishop, not the apostle, the believer. On January 17, 2012, Robert William Schambach stepped into eternity at the age of 85. He had preached for over 6 decades without changing the message, without abandoning the tent, without backing down from a single word of what he believed. His wife Mary had preceded him by 2 years. His daughter Donna carried the fire forward. He preached in over 200 nations. He established churches in Newark, Philadelphia, Brooklyn, and Chicago. He partnered with orphanages, Bible schools, and urban outreaches across Russia, China, Indonesia, Haiti, and Mexico City. He brought truckloads of food into inner cities because he understood that the gospel feeds the whole person. He poured his life out as a drink offering and left nothing on the table. A life fully spent, a voice fully used, a call fully answered. God is still God. R.W. Schambach is gone. The tent is folded. The voice is silent. But the God who moved through an ordinary man from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, a man who made his altar out of a curb, who prayed under a platform while someone else preached, who was told, "You're not ready," and submitted, who woke at 4 a.m. before the world stirred, that God is still on the throne. The question is not whether he can do it again. The question is, who will pay the price to let him? Schambach paid the price no one sees. The 4 a.m. prayers, the 30-day fasts, the years of obscurity under another man's tent, before he ever held a microphone of his own. That is not history. That is an invitation. The same price is available. The same God is waiting. The same oil is still for sale. Comment below with, "Lord, give me oil in my lamp," to declare that you are done being a spectator and ready to step into the assignment God called you to. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. Like and subscribe to Cloud of Witnesses for more life-changing stories of faith that will equip you to boldly fulfill the call of God in your life. This week, set your alarm 30 minutes earlier than normal and spend that time in prayer before you check your phone, before you speak to anyone, before the world gets its hands on your attention. Do it every day for 7 days. Schambach built his entire ministry on the principle that the power flowed from the relationship, not from the activity. Test it yourself and see what God does with a week of chosen hiddenness. Now, what if the greatest miracle movement in American history was not started by a preacher, but by a businessman who couldn't stop weeping in the presence of God? What if the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship, which ignited a global wave of the Holy Spirit, was birthed not in a church, but at a breakfast table by a man who had seen an angel and couldn't keep quiet about it? How does a California dairy farmer become the catalyst for the greatest lay revival of the 20th century? And what does his story say about what God can do through you, someone who has never stood behind a pulpit? Check out this next video to discover the extraordinary story of Demos and Rose Shakarian, the spiritual principle of marketplace revival that turned ordinary businessmen into miracle workers, and the transformation God is still looking to release through people who think their job disqualifies them from being used by Him.